Well, I can only describe it the way it was described to me. I turned white. So I got to Seattle, and along with my diet and my period, I was going to be just fine. I had my period started, and I knew that having the period while I was in Seattle was going to be a bit of consternation. Ten years ago, I was in the pre-COVID world. I was traveling, as I often do, with my performances, and I was in Washington State, which is on the Pacific coast of the United States. And I have been going there for years to do a program over in Vancouver schools. So I knew the people there very well. I loved the work I was doing. But this year, when I was there in 2000, what did I say, 5 years ago? So 2010, that year when I was going with a new diet plan. Now, I'm one of those women that a friend of mine says we're called fluffy. I'm just telling you, I'm a big woman. And in Malawi, they call me strong. But I got a little something on me. So I could afford to take a little something off. So I had found this brand new diet plan, and I was going to use it, which meant there were certain things I could eat and certain things I could not. I had been doing the diet plan for 2 or 3 days before I was on the road into Seattle. And the day of my performance, I was being very good about doing the diet plan. They'd asked me what I wanted for lunch. We usually got pizza, but I said, oh no, I have my banana and I am good. Don't you need anything else? I'll drink some milk. I have my banana. I had my breakfast this morning. I'll have something this evening. And so I was obedient. Now, it just so happened that on the way to Seattle, I had my period started. And I knew that having the period while I was in Seattle was going to be a bit of consternation. You see, over the last few years before then, my period had gotten heavier and heavier and heavier, to the point where I never knew, one, when it was going to come. It would come out of the blue. And two, I could never keep enough pads. I could literally go through one of those large box of pads, even the large ones, in just 3 or 4 days. I was changing pads literally every 2 hours. And even when I was doing that, it sometimes would bleed through. I was one of those people that always kept a coat or a sweater around me because I was eventually going to have to wrap it around the bottom part of me because the blood would just come. It never had any control, but it was just the way life was. I was getting older, and I knew that this is what it was just going to be. So I always tried to be prepared, and so I got to Seattle, and along with my diet and my period, I was going to be just fine. I had gathered several of my wonderful pads together so I would have no problems and no difficulties in front of the children. And I was in that bathroom every hour and a half to change it, just in case. So there would be no blood anywhere else. After I finished my program, which was 2 programs in the day, and then I would get to go back home after I ran to the bank, put some money in. That's always a good thing. Checked my pad one more time, got home, took a nap, checked my pad again, and then I went back for our evening program. The evening program I did at the school was always filled with adults and kids, and I would do one of my historic character programs. By this time, I had been doing this so long at this school that parents whose children no longer attended elementary school still came. They were always coming back. So we always had more and more people until we were in one place. This was the year before we moved to the auditorium, where we were packed up in the room and people were standing against the wall. I was performing away, doing my character of Old Bess, laughing with the parents, standing people up, singing my heart out, knowing that I was going to have a full meal afterwards with only a little bit of applesauce before I had come. I was delighted about how I was performing. And then right towards the end of the performance, well, I can only describe it the way it was described to me. I turned white. I know you can't believe that, but I did. I turned white. Well, they said I turned white. And so all I know is that I had this flush that came over me, and something was wrong. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And so I could feel myself sway just a little bit. And so I leaned back on the counter that was behind me. The teachers noticed. They'd been with them a long time. The teachers noticed, and they said, "Oh, well, it looks like old Bess is wrapping it up." And I said, "Yes, good day to you all." And they began to hustle the children out of there and the parents. And since I was done, it was okay. Someone brought me over some water, and I lifted up the water and I took a long gulp and I put it down, and something. Now, this following bit does not come from me. I remember not a thing. But from those who were around, they said, I went straight down. After a projectile came out of my mouth from my stomach, but we won't talk about that part. I went straight down. I was falling onto the ground of a school's concrete floor. Fortunately, there was one parent who didn't leave. He happened to be an EMT in the area. He also had seen me go white, and he didn't leave as quickly. And when he started to see me totter, and as I fell, he literally slid underneath me and caught me. I opened my eyes. After a little bit, I had no idea how long I'd been there. It had been at least a good minute. And I opened my eyes and I was looking up at him and I said, "What are you doing above me?" And he said, "You're on the ground." "Why am I on the ground?" "You fainted, Sheila." "Huh, I feel fine." "Okay, I'm an EMT and I'm just gonna help you get up, all right?" "Oh yes, I feel wonderful." And so I began the process to get up and fell right back down. And he was right there and he said, "Sheila, I've called my friends. We're going to take you to the hospital." "Oh, I feel fine." "No, you don't. You can't walk." And so I waited there as they applied water into me, and his friends came and they all lifted me up, which was, the most embarrassing thing in my entire life was to be lifted by these men. But they lifted me up and they put me on the stretcher and I'm like, I'm fine. And they put me into the back of an ambulance, which I really don't remember that part either. I was fine all the way as they worked on me and they smiled, and their friend, the EMT, came along with me and said, "You did a great performance today. My son really likes when you come to the school. It's really wonderful. You're going to be okay." I was like, "Of course, I'm fine." And then I thought, well, what about my car and my hotel room? And I have friends that are in town. What? Huh? He said, "All that right now needs to go." I was blessed that I had great teachers and they all took care of everything for me. And I was in the hospital. They allowed me something to give me some sleep and I went to sleep. And then the next day it was test upon test upon test. I had to reschedule the next program I was having the next day. And then finally a doctor came in and said, "So have you had any changes in your life?" I said, "Well, no, not really. Well, I have started a diet." "Oh, tell me about the diet." I told him. He said, "It's actually a good diet." He said, "Well, I need to let you know, your iron is so low, it is strange that you've been standing at all." I said, "What?" He said, "You have almost no iron in your system right now. Your white cell blood count is very, very low. You shouldn't have been doing anything." And he said, "Tell me about your periods." Oh, well, but they're kind of normal. I mean, they're heavy, but they're, it's like what people get when they get older, it gets heavy. "How heavy?" And I told him, and his eyes opened wide. "That's not normal. You're not okay." They did tests and found out I had a fibroid down there, and basically it was bleeding almost constantly, even when it wasn't bleeding out. My periods, my womanhood was killing me, taking all of my energy, away.
Come baby.
And it was the most
करता
difficult thing to realize that the thing that reminded me that I was a woman, the thing that reminded me and when that I wasn't pregnant when I didn't want to be, the thing that was a part of me was killing me. I never asked why, because we just don't talk about it. Eventually I got home, and after making sure I saw the kids in the classroom, because they'd all heard the rumors that I was not feeling well, and I went back and visited the kids. I finished my programming, got everything taken care of, and got back home and talked to my parents. I didn't have very good health insurance, but I had just been able to get Obamacare. Yay! But unfortunately for me, I was able to use that and go to the doctor, and he put me on for a surgery within a couple of months. It was that serious. And in those couple of months, as the period would come for a while there, it was still heavy. It was still hard. I didn't have headaches and I didn't have cramps. I just had the flow. And now I knew what it meant. You see, the doctor said I'd had the perfect storm. I'd started a diet, I did a performance, and I was bleeding. All my energy was gone. And over the next few months, I fainted 3 more times. I had not done it. I changed my diet to go back to what it had been, but it's just that my body was talking to me. Since then, I don't have periods anymore. I don't miss them. I don't miss trying to find something for every hour and a half. I don't miss not knowing when it comes. I don't have to worry about getting pregnant now because I'm not doing anything that will help me. I know how that works now. What I do know is I have to tell women it's not normal. When it's too much, it's not normal. And we need to go and be open and find out what needs to happen so we can be okay. It's okay. We can have our blood be our friend and not our enemy if we'll just talk and ask for help.